requested by Ms. Carter, reconsideration of the actions of December 29th, 2015 Board of Education meeting.
Mr. Mallon, I make a motion we do not entertain reconsideration actions of the December 29th, 2015 meeting of the Board of Education.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion made, there's a second. I will now open the floor up to discussion.
Obviously, we don't want to listen to the constituents of our community. I think that regardless of how disruptive you think this might be, there has not been one person that has addressed the board and has been in favor of this decision, or that they think it's a great move for High County schools.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to, I've shared this with you all individually. I've shared it publicly in whatever forum we've had to share it, which really has been through the press and social media, since we still have not discussed this as a board openly. But I think the fact that Mr. Kestner went ahead and made a motion to not even consider this before discussion is just evidence that there's been very little thought, flexibility, or actually consideration of other either board member opinions and public opinion about that decision. So for me, there's three reasons that I was hoping that we could go in this direction, or at least explore it together. One is, as Mrs. Carter said, a public opinion itself. I think there's been outrage over what happened. There has been very little support for that decision, if any support. Anyone who has spoken to us at our town hall, quote-unquote town hall, anyone who has spoken at a board meeting, there's been an editorial or a letter to the editor almost every single day questioning why this decision was made, asking for it to be reconsidered or changed. So unless there's some underground movement that I haven't seen that is in support of that decision, there is very little support. And as elected officials, I believe we need to be listening to constituents and using our judgment and responding as is our charge. I think another reason that I was hoping we could stop this train that I think is moving really, really fast and furiously is I still don't understand what it is we're hiring for as a board. We still haven't discussed challenges with Dr. Vargo that led to us deciding not to renew her contract, or any new direction that we're going in. So it's a little mind-boggling to me that we're talking about interviewing people this week and deciding on who we want to interview even tonight without still having talked as a board about why the decision was made. That was made on the 29th. And finally, I'm really, and I think that Mrs. Vargo said that, Mrs. Carter said this in the paper, and I think it's actually a great idea, the idea of slowing this train down by extending the contract for another year. We are not, this board right here is not the board that's going to have to live with the consequences of this decision. So we have 5 or 6 months left as a full board, and then there's another board that's going to move in. Certainly, at least three of us will still be here. But I think this could be something that we should let the new board decide on, which is another reason I was hoping we could rescind and we could go ahead and discuss the option of retaining Dr. Vargo in our employ for another year, and at least giving her a chance to address any of the shortcomings that the board has decided, I don't know if they are yet, has decided she's displayed that have led to not wanting to renew her contract. So those are my thoughts, and I was hoping to have an open discussion as a board about it. But again, the quick, hasty action and motion to not even discuss this is pretty telling.
Yes.
And I also think, too, that we, regardless of what you might think, we depend on this community to support our schools. And they're the ones that have always brought us to where we are today. And if we lose the support of the community, then we will be in very big trouble. I mean, I think it's a sad state of affairs that we chose not to even bother to have an open discussion with people or to take into any consideration the thoughts of the public and the public outcry that has occurred. I do think that if we're not going to reconsider or even have the opportunity to move in that direction, then I think the three of you will be the ones that will be responsible for what happens in our High County schools in the future.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to make a statement. Unfortunately, the issues surrounding Diana Vargo's non-renewal have created a division among many people in our community. That was never my intention, nor do I believe was the intention of any board member who chose not to renew the contract.
Hey, you're wrong.
you just stop? Act like a human being and an adult. My children at school wouldn't act like that.
He wants that cookies
So
ball.
what? Because you guys act like children.
Order.
Act like an
Next
adult.
person interrupts, we will ask the resource officer to remove you. Please have the courtesy to allow people to speak. You asked for individuals to speak. They are speaking here. I'd ask you to let them do so.
Thank you.
It is never easy to decide an employee's contract will not be renewed. Such a decision implies that individuals are not satisfied with a person's performance, and no one likes rejection, especially if done publicly. As you may know, Ms. Vargo did not elect to have a public hearing that would have enabled us to move to set forth reasons for our decision. That was her right and her choice, and we honored it. The duty and goal of each school board member, let me finish, Ms. Carter. I did not interrupt you. The duty and goal of each school board member, including myself, is to do what we believe is in the best interest of the students, regardless of favoritism, friendship, or public outcry. The agenda item that is now on the table, asking us to reconsider our decision, or as Mr. Kessler, not to reconsider the decision, will only prolong what was and remains a controversial decision. We must do what we believe is the best interest of Ohio County schools, and that decision has already been made by this board. The majority has spoken. One should never change their decision merely because there is a small vocal group that wants to go away. I can cite many events in history which may have had their share of objectors, but was not the reason to change the decision. There has been nothing new presented by this small group that gives me pause that I do not consider something in my past vote, other than the voice of certain group of objectors who wish to insult me personally. Irrespective of how loud the objections and personal criticisms are of this small group, I will do what is in the best interest of each and every student in this county. Any continuation of this issue is only harmful to our students and our school system as a whole. We need to exercise due diligence, interview our candidates, and choose our new superintendent. We do not need further delay. The appointment needs made promptly as possible. Going forward, our students need to be prepared to compete against every person in this country and in this emerging economy. Our children need to be prepared to compete throughout the world. We cannot compare ourselves and be satisfied that we had higher scores than other counties in the state of West Virginia. Our children deserve better, and we are duty-bound to ensure that they are properly prepared to compete on a national and world level, not just here in West Virginia. Our proficiency rating at William Park High School, the crown jewel of the Ohio County schools, was a mere 24 to 32% out of 100. Our middle schools were 24 to 47%, and our elementary schools ranged from 20% to 86%. If our elementary schools can score as high as 86%, we are not doing justice to our other schools, especially our high school students, with a maximum proficiency of 32%. Sadly, last year, every grade level in Ohio County decreased in the proficiency in math, which is a basic and needed skill. On the West Test 2 Index Composite Performance, a test which measures percentage of students improving amongst other categories, one of our grade schools scored last in the entire state of West Virginia. The duty of the Central Office Administration, which makes approximately $500,000 a year collectively, is to give our principals and teachers the tools that they need to successfully prepare our children for the future. It is clear that this is not being done, as these scores are unacceptable. The best interests of our students are not being served, and that should be the principal criteria for all decisions. By all means, this was a hard decision to make initially, but we all need to move forward for the best interest of our students and our school system. As a result thereof, I'm asking this board to not consider the motion to reconsider so that we can move on and select a new superintendent after proper consideration of the applicants. I ask you to do this for the benefit of our students and our school system.
Mr. Mallett, may I make one clarification? Dr. Vargo's contract was not renewed. She was never fired. Therefore, she had no opportunity for a public hearing, nor did we give her any opportunity or any reasons for non-renewal. The only way she could have had a public hearing is if all of this information that was never shared prior to this time with any of us would have been appropriate. We gave Dr. Vargo an outstanding recommendation. She met or exceeded all of her goals, which included test scores and test score analysis, and giving the people the help that they need in order to make that happen. So that's an unfair assumption on her part. This board did not ever give her a reason, nor did we ever give her an opportunity for a public hearing.
Any other comments?
I'd like to make one final comment. Thank you for sharing what you shared tonight, and this is the most that we've heard about the decision making. So thank you for sharing it. And what I'm taking away is the biggest reason for the decision, at least for you, Mr. Mallett, was test scores. And not seeing test scores change or go up between last year and this year. Last year was a different test, as you remember, so it's really not an apples-to-apples comparison anyway. But I would say if that's the reason that we are choosing not to renew Dr. Vargo's contract, then I'm hoping we're not considering any really any West Virginia public education employee for this position, because no one's scores went up from last year to this year, county by county in the state. And I would say if we looked principal by principal at our state's high schools, we would also see that trend. So to me, that means that we're already ruling out any current West Virginia superintendent, assistant superintendent, or high school principal, if that is the main criteria for the decision that we made.
Ms. Perry-Wellman, please don't put words in my mouth. That was not what I said. Those were the reasons that I have. I don't speak for Mr. Birch. I don't speak for Mr. Tessner. I'll speak for the board. The board speaks for itself through its vote.
Thank you. I was referring specifically to you.
Well, I'm referring to you. So, the motion on the table has been made by Mr. Tessner. It has been seconded by Mr. Birch. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Motion carries 3-2. Next on the agenda.
Can I just want to follow up with Ms. Carter said in regards to
the
the public hearing.
Next on the agenda. Next on the agenda. Discussion and review of superintendent applications received and narrowing field of superintendent applicants to candidates to be interviewed. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session according to West Virginia Code 6 9A-4B